That further proceedings on the quorum call be dispensed with.
Without objection.
First today, I'd like to turn attention to the severe weather that's afflicting communities throughout my home state. Nearly 20 counties from one end of the state to the other have declared states of emergency in response to historically high water levels. And just moments ago, Governor Matt Bevin put the entire Commonwealth under a state of emergency to mobilize resources where they're needed most. Many families are evacuating toward safety. Approximately 2,400 people in eastern and southern Kentucky are still without power. Mudslides have closed roads, bridges are flooded, and emergency personnel have been deployed to rescue stranded drivers and others in danger. I want to express my gratitude to the first responders working around the clock to keep their communities safe. It may be a difficult road to recovery, but Kentuckians are already pitching in to help their neighbors in need. My staff and I are ready to work with emergency management officials and will continue to monitor the situation closely. So now, Mr. President, on an entirely different matter, this week the Senate will resume our work in the personnel business by considering yet another of President Trump's qualified judicial nominees. Eric Miller has been chosen to sit on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, and one look at his legal career to this point says he's well prepared to do so. Mr. Miller is a graduate of Harvard and the University of Chicago, where he served on the Law Review editorial staff. He's held prominent clerkships on both the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals and the U.S. Supreme Court. And his record of public service at the Justice Department and in private practice reflects a legal mind of the highest caliber. So I hope each of my colleagues will join me in voting to advance the first Circuit Court nominee of this new Congress. And that'll be 31 since President Trump took office. But first, in just a few hours, the Senate will vote on advancing a straightforward piece of legislation to protect newborn babies. This legislation is simple. It would simply require that medical professionals give the same standard care and medical treatment to newborn babies who've survived an attempted abortion as any other newborn baby would receive in any other circumstance. It isn't about new restrictions on abortion. It isn't about changing the options available to women. It's just about recognizing that a newborn baby is a newborn baby, period. This bill would make clear that in the United States of America in the year 2019, the medical professionals on hand when a baby is born alive need to maintain their basic ethical and professional responsibilities to that newborn. It would make sure our laws reflect the fact that the human rights of newborn boys and girls are innate. They don't come and go based on the circumstances of birth. Whatever the circumstances, if that medical professional comes face to face with a baby who's been born alive, they're looking at a human being with human rights, period. To be frank, Mr. President, it makes me uneasy that such a basic statement seems to be generating actual disagreement. Can the extreme far-left politics surrounding abortion really have come this far? Are we really supposed to think that it's normal that there are now two sides debating whether newborn living babies deserve medical attention? We already know that many of our Democratic colleagues want the United States to remain one of the 7 nations in the world that permits elective abortions after 20 weeks. 7 countries, including North Korea, China, and the United States of America. But now it seems the far left wants to push the envelope even further. Apart from the entire abortion debate, they now seem to be suggesting that newborn babies' right to life may be contingent on the circumstances surrounding their birth. Well, evidently, the far left is no longer convinced that all babies are created equal. But the rest of us are still pretty fond of that principle. So my colleagues across the aisle need to decide where they'll take their cues on these moral questions. On the one hand, There are a few extreme voices who've decided that some newborn lives are more disposable than others. On the other side is the entire rest of the country. I would urge my colleagues, let's listen to the voices of the American people. Let's reaffirm that. Let's reaffirm that when we say every life is created equal, we actually mean it. Let's vote to advance the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act later today. I suggest the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Alexander.